The steam vibrator. This is the world's first steam-powered vibrator, designed by American doctor George Taylor in 1869. Dr. Taylor used it to treat female hysteria. The coronation of Bokassa, the Emperor of the Central African Republic. 1/3 of the country's budget was spent on it, and among the refreshments was the meat of his political opponents. In the 1930s, a woman's pregnancy was determined by inserting her urine into frogs. If, after 15 hours, the frog started laying eggs, it meant the woman was pregnant. Dorothy Ellen, Chicago, 1920s. In 1926, 24-year-old prostitute Dorothy Ellen strangled 30-year-old gangster Michael O'Hara with a scarf during sex in a brothel. He was paying for rough play, but in a moment of passion, she went too far. Dorothy was sentenced to 15 years in prison. White cafe goers cruelly cover a black girl and 2 of her supporters with flour and drinks for daring to sit at the counter in defiance of old racist traditions, 1963. The miraculous survivors from the 87th floor of the World Trade Center, New York, September 11th, 2001. The execution of Amin Guth, the commandant of the Plazov concentration camp. He was the officer who entertained himself by shooting prisoners from the balcony with a sniper rifle. Lena Medina, the youngest mother in medical history, gave birth at the age of 5. The Real Batman, 1892. The photo shows Bill Smith, a butcher who fought off thieves and patrolled the streets of New York at night looking for criminals. Goalkeeper Sam Bertram stands alone, unaware that the game was stopped 15 minutes ago due to fog, 1937. In 1916, when the U.S. debated whether to enter World War I, legislators from Nebraska proposed a bill for a national referendum. Anyone who voted for war would immediately become a volunteer and be sent to the front. 7 Native Americans were brought to Europe as new residents of a human zoo, 1889. Newspaper headlines read on a train to Stamford, Connecticut, the day after John F. Kennedy's assassination, November 23, 1963. The ambiguous pose of a Pompeian man who died as a result of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius on August 24, 79 AD. Women cannibals, USSR, 1920s. August 17, 1896, saw the first recorded pedestrian accident in the world. This marked the beginning of fatal traffic accidents. After the discovery of radioactivity, many manufacturers began adding new, miraculous substances to consumer goods. In the first half of the 20th century, radioactive bread, toothpaste, cosmetics, and bath salts were produced in different countries. Some products were even named after radium because of the trend. Fingerprints became a method of identification after 2 people named Will West were convicted of the same crime in Kansas. They looked exactly the same, but only fingerprints helped determine who was guilty. If you were caught by the police for jaywalking, you had to stand in the shame box for 30 minutes. South Korea, 1970s. U.S. military malaria medicine advertisement during World War II. Papua New Guinea, 1940s. Malaria spread by a specific type of mosquito. Menelik II, the King of Kings of Ethiopia, believed in the power of the Bible. When he felt unwell, he would tear out pages from the Holy Scriptures and eat them. He died in 1913, having eaten the entire Book of Kings. A little girl from the Philippines was displayed in the Coney Island Zoo with animals. She was placed among monkeys and lizards, tied with ropes, and people were allowed to throw peanuts at her, 1914. Swedish soldiers prepare arrested Germans and Baltics for extradition to the USSR. These were soldiers from the Third Reich who fled to this country after World War II. A soldier equipped with a helmet with chainmail to protect his eyes from shell fragments, stones, and other debris, USA, 1918. A headless rooster, Mike, who lived for 18 months after almost being completely decapitated. This fact was documented by scientists in 1945. Mike became a media star, and his fame brought his owners a considerable income. A young bride heading to her wedding, China, 1912. A typical wedding during a time of scarcity, USSR, 1963. A woman in a gas mask walks with a stroller, Germany, 1942. The execution of counter-revolutionaries. Before the shooting, a sign listing their crimes was hung around their necks, China, 1968. In the 1950s, Italy produced protective shoes for women. These shoes were equipped with spurs on the heels and toes, so that women could protect themselves from persistent admirers. In 1895, two cars collided in Ohio. The oddity of this case is that the automobile industry was just beginning, and there were only two cars in the entire state. A mannequin head made from soap, toilet paper, and real hair, used by John Anglin to escape from Alcatraz Prison, USA, 1962. A device for smoking an entire pack of cigarettes, 1950s. Argentavis, possibly the largest bird to ever inhabit Earth. A rope bed in a drunk tank in Britain, early 20th century. A Coca-Cola advertisement, USA, 1984. The Dyatlov Pass tourist group before their mysterious disappearance, 1959. A prisoner from the American Sing Sing prison undergoes Chinese water torture, 1860. An American food parcel for starving Soviet Russia. Americans fed about 10 million people daily. Throughout the 1920s, Soviet Russia received over 1 million such shipments. Children being fed as part of the Save the Children program, an international campaign to provide food for at least 7 million orphan children born during the Russian Revolution, 1921. The Ku Klux Klan at a fair in Colorado, 1926. Men from the Babira tribe. They believed that twisting the upper lip in such a manner was very beautiful and attractive to women. Belgian Congo, 1924. The Death Wall in Rajkot, India, 1970s. Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau carries his future successor, Justin Trudeau, under his arm. Ottawa, 1973. A copper mask for a war participant, created in an era when plastic surgery was not yet known, 1918. Few survivors of the Titanic disaster, USA, May 1912. A Japanese soldier adjusts a Chinese man's head before decapitating him. Execution of a prisoner of war, 1938. A car powered by charcoal, Japan, 1945. A death toll counter from car accidents in Brooklyn, 1927. A harsh yet convincing form of punishment for violating military discipline was used on a Soviet Guard ship in 1991. The city of Murmansk, after a German carpet bombing, USSR, 1942. 350 tons of bombs were dropped on the city in one day. Officer with his belongings, 1862. Freed slaves were considered contraband or captured property at that time. A rare photo of North Korean leader Kim Il-sung showing a tumor on his neck, Photographers were prohibited from photographing the right side of his face. Late 1980s. A school bus on the streets of Taiwan, 1950s. Siamese twins, Rosa and Joseph Blazek, and Rosa's lover, Franz Dvorak. In the 19th century in England, there was a man with a second face on the back of his head. Edward was an heir to the English peerage in the 19th century. He had an additional face at the back of his head that could not eat or speak, but was capable of laughing and crying. Crossbow arrows in the skull of a man who fell during the battle for the Swedish city of Visby, Gotland Island, in 1361. Even with a lawnmower in line, the fuel crisis in the USA, 1973. The shadow of a person left after the atomic bomb blast in Hiroshima. Chicago police prepare to extinguish a burning cross. The riots were triggered by an African-American family moving into a neighborhood previously inhabited only by white people, 1963. Two local hunters with a captured cannibalistic python, Philippines, 1970. Jews queue at a travel agency hoping to leave Germany for Eretz Israel, Berlin, January 1939. Ans van Dijk before the special court in Amsterdam, February 1947. Dutch collaborator who handed Jews over to the Nazis during World War II. She was the only woman in the Netherlands sentenced to death for collaborating with the occupiers. The signature dish of a restaurant where George Crumb worked in 1853 was French fries. One day, a customer returned fried potatoes to the kitchen, complaining that they were too thick. Crumb, deciding to play a prank, sliced the potatoes paper thin and fried them. This is how potato chips were invented, which became the restaurant's most popular dish. The palms of a father rest on the glass of a bus, taking his wife and son to safety from besieged Sarajevo during the Bosnian War, November 10th, 1992. An opium party in France, 1918. Workers clear snow from the railroad tracks, Alaska, 1904. Daddy Long Legs, the underwater electric railway, 1897. A police officer patiently waits in the hospital waiting room as the victim of a gunshot, wound to the leg, tells him what happened, 1978. The collection of pine bark for food due to food shortages caused by the Civil War, Russian Empire, 1918. Monk Capistrán Ferrito plays baseball with Harlem Boys, USA, 1965. The M1911 pistol with an extended magazine and a brass shell casing collector. In the early days of World War I, planes had no machine guns, and enemy pilots shot at each other with pistols. Gangsters celebrate the killing of the leader of a rival gang, New York, 1916. Ballet dancers peeking into the men's changing room, Paris, 1948. Dorothy Ellen, Chicago, 1920s. In 1926, 24-year-old prostitute Dorothy Ellen strangled 30-year-old gangster Michael O'Hara with a scarf during sex in a brothel. A Zippo lighter belonging to an unknown American pilot. Children in bomb shield hats, headphones and protection from biting their tongues. Sydney, 1942. Honda driver John Surtees refuses to race an experimental magnesium-bodied car, deeming it too dangerous. Instead, novice driver Joe Slesser took the wheel. On the third lap, the car went off track, crashed into a mound, and caught fire. The magnesium body ignited instantly. Slesser died. The photo shows Surtees passing the burning car, 1960s. In 1965, 90-year-old Frenchwoman Jeanne Calment sold her apartment to a 47-year-old lawyer who agreed to make monthly payments to her until her death, with the total amount based on a 10-year lifespan. In the end, Calment received money from him for 30 years and outlived the lawyer, with his widow continuing the payments for 2 more years. Price controls in Nazi Germany, 1935. Store closed by police for excessively high prices. Store owner sent for re-education in Dachau. Tooth extraction pliers, 1860s. A screw was inserted into the painful tooth to make it easier to grab and extract along with the root. This was done without anesthesia. The Deadly Bet, 1986. Crew commander Alexander Kluev bet he could land a plane blindfolded using only instruments. He closed the cockpit windows with curtains and landed the plane. At the time of the incident, there were 85 passengers on board. The plane crashed into a concrete strip and, from the powerful impact, split in 2. Burning kerosene from the engines spilled out, starting a fire. The crash killed 70 people, and Captain Kluev survived. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. A German soldier next to a shell with the inscription, "I didn't want war," France, 1917. A dog named Pip sentenced to life imprisonment for killing the governor's cat, USA, 1924. Hector the rat, France's first astronaut, 1961. A few hours before launch, Hector chewed through a bundle of cables transmitting information. After 8 minutes of flight, the animal safely returned to Earth. Let's make friends. A speech by Adolf Hitler to the world community, February 29, 1936. Soviet whalers transport dead animals to the whaling base, USSR, 1960. A white dove lands on Fidel Castro's shoulder during his first televised address to the citizens of Cuba, and stays there for the entire 2-hour speech, Havana, 1959. Puffy the cat, believed to have hypnotized over 300 people with her huge, unblinking eyes, 1944. A brave child calls the police to protect his mother from being beaten by his father, 1987. The revenge riot for Harvey Milk, 1979. In San Francisco, when a judge ruled that the killing of the first openly gay politician, Harvey Milk, by politician Dan White was involuntary manslaughter and sentenced him to just 7 years and 8 months, the gay community took to the streets, sparking a large-scale riot. The crew of the Pueblo returns to the U.S. after 11 months of captivity in North Korea, 1968. A vampire hunting kit, 19th century. Klaus Carl Schilling. He was given a black bag over his head. In 1945, Schilling was sentenced to death for conducting medical experiments on more than 1,000 prisoners at the German Dachau camp. Between 300 and 400 people died from malaria injections, and many survivors suffered irreversible health damage. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.